As always, we are here to bring you interesting themes, fascinating guests like the one I have for today, and friendly inspiration to make sure that you are living your best life full of energy, full of vibrancy. My name is Yvonne Myles, and I'm the founder of Vibrantly Living You. I'm a health and wellness coach. And so a healthy connection with Swadhisthana, your sacral chakra, means that you can live deeply, vibrantly, and authentically as yourself. That's what we want. That's the goal. But what if, instead of a healthy connection, you hear an inner voice telling you that maybe you're not worthy of being happy, healthy, or the energetic being that you are? What is that thing that's holding you back? And I think you may have an idea of what I'm talking about. I know that I have faced up against this time and time again. And that is what we are going to explore today. And that is why I'm so incredibly excited to bring my friend Gertrude DeWitt here. She is devoted to helping people release and heal those inner saboteurs so that you can make a difference, the difference that you came here to make in life. So let me bring her on. She's been waiting patiently, and here she is, Gertrude. Hello. Welcome. Let me
Hi,
see.
Yvonne.
Make sure you're unmuted. Yeah.
I think I am. Thank
Okay.
you so much for your invitation, and it's great to be here with you today.
Ah,
I'm honored to be talking to you and to your community, of course. So,
well, you are heartily, heartily welcome. You know, we've
mhm.
really been diving into this concept of identity, body awareness, body positivity with some of the other guests, but I think having you here is really going to hone in on something that is even much deeper. So let me tell you, everybody, a little bit about Gertrude. Gertrude is the founder of Soulful Business Woman. She is a career and life coach. She is a certified therapist and energy clearing practitioner. She's also trained in and has certifications in yoga, in Reiki, in ancestral clearing practices, and family constellations, and many other modalities. In her business, Soulful Business Woman, she helps her clients identify and heal the limiting beliefs, old programming, core emotional wounding, and karmic imprints so that they can fulfill their deepest soul's purpose. Now, I can vouch for Gertrude's work because I attended one of her energy clearing calls, and I learned exactly how devious those inner critics are, those voices that sometimes you might just grow used to. I learned how devious they are, and so I'm really, really happy that you're here, Gertrude, to
Thank
help us better understand and overcome our inner critics. Yes.
you. Yay.
So
Thank you
tell
for your
us.
introduction. I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Well, that's why I'm here. So, I'm just curious, what were you up to before you actually got into this particular line of work that I assume you chose for yourself?
Right. Yeah, so it almost feels like a previous life. But I was in the corporate world working in a corporate career. First I was in fashion and later on I was in marketing. And at a certain point, this was back in 2006, I think, I completely burned myself out. I had a very dark night of the soul and I was on sick leave for, I think it was about 6 months. And at some point I knew that this commercial corporate career was no longer for me.
Mm,
And I finally decided to leave my job. And I realized that I was stuck in a career that was no longer my passion. I felt that I had a deeper calling to fulfill. And so I decided to retrain as a coach, as a therapist, as you already explained, and later on also as a yoga teacher and an energy healer. So that's very shortly my journey. And yeah, so that's what feels like such a long time ago. Yeah.
That is a huge, that's a huge shift. And I have to applaud your courage to be able to take something on that just seems so completely opposite of what you were doing,
Mm.
but
It
also,
was.
to have the courage to move beyond that pain and that struggle. But what made you decide to go into this transformational coaching world?
Well, first of all, it was of course my own personal journey. I knew things weren't going well for me at a certain point. My burnout was the final straw, and I had had periods before where I was sort of running into my own wall, so to speak. And that had a lot to do with my perfectionism, with my self-sabotage, with my relentless inner critic, that sort of acted as a whip running behind me. And I was striving, I was surviving, I was having very unhealthy boundaries, especially towards work. I did not take care of myself properly. So I experienced this hidden suffering, and in the end it wasn't so hidden anymore. But yeah, so that was my personal experience. And at the same time, while I was in the middle of that, I also saw it happening around me so much. Friends, co-workers. It was like burnout was a new trend or something like that. And so yeah, so I really felt that I had something to offer to other women because I had experienced the whole journey myself. And of course I had a lot of help, getting out of it and working on myself. And I really felt that there is still, but there was at the time also a very big need in the world. And I really felt like I had to jump in and you know yeah, and help other people.
I see. Yeah. And that just kind of hurts my heart that there's so many people out there that are up against that overwhelm, that burnout. Like you said, it was
Mm.
like a new trend or something.
Yeah.
If any of you out there have are experiencing that, again, drop a line, give us a thumbs up or something if you know exactly what Gertrude's talking about. So you did choose to work specifically with entrepreneurs and women in particular. Was there a reason behind that?
Yeah, actually, also professional women in corporate jobs. And the reason is that I find that women who are the most passionate and the hard workers and the driven women are the ones that are uh, facing these struggles.
Hmm.
And I always say it's the best people you can have working for you, but they're also at high risk because often they're so driven. They have, like I explained about myself, they often have, they're perfectionists. They have a really strong inner critic. So those are all factors which do not help. And and that's particularly the women that I feel have so much to offer, have such a drive to fulfill their purpose, to make a difference in this world.
Hmm.
But they're also uh, sometimes their own worst enemy.
Yeah.
These are the women that run into exhaustion, burnout, stress, and all the things we already talked about earlier.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm just going to, I noticed that you keep talking about perfectionism. And I guess that can be a really, that's like a super highway into
Mhm.
having your inner critic, right? If you're constantly up against that
Yeah.
self critic. Okay, I just have to ask though, if a woman was not particularly an entrepreneur, but still had, was still driven by that inner perfectionism, would that be somebody who could potentially seek you out?
Yes, of course. I don't distinguish between, whatever women do. I really want them to live their highest potential and make the difference they want to make here on earth. And in whatever way, whether that's in an own business, in their own business, or whether that's in a corporate job, or volunteer work, that's all good. Yeah, because we all do it in our own way. We all want to fulfill our purpose in our own way, right?
Okay, so if anybody out there is up against those kind of things, but you don't have to be an entrepreneur, then this is still for you. So keep
Yeah.
paying attention, pay close attention. Okay, we may have covered this already, but in essence, what does cause somebody to seek you out? I mean, most people don't wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I have a problem with my inner critic," right?
Mhm.
What are the things that are going on in their lives that that cause them to just say something's got to change?
Yeah, so it's so many things. It's if you feel like you have a lot to offer, but it's just not coming out. It just, you sort of feel that you're staying under the radar, that you're sort of hiding yourself, and still feel like, okay, I'm not really coming to fruition. You feel you have a deeper feeling inside that you have a lot to offer. You have gifts and talents, but it's just not happening for you. Then you can be pretty sure that there's self-sabotage going on, that you may have that, those gremlins talking to you, that inner critic. If you feel like you're really working hard, you're striving, you're pushing yourself, but it's still not really happening, or you feel like you have to put a lot of effort into it.
Hmm.
Also probably something running in the background that is not serving you.
Okay, that all makes perfectly good sense. And actually, that could be why, maybe your purpose is to be an entrepreneur, and maybe that's why you're not one. You can't get yourself there yet. So I'm kind of connecting those dots there too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I see this happening with women in jobs. I see this happening with women in businesses, and also other kinds of forms of working. Yeah, but the difference, I think, is with women who have already started their business. They usually have already connected with their passion, with their purpose, because
Mm,
they make a conscious decision to start their own business. Whereas I find a lot of times that women working in jobs um, may feel they're not in the right job, and
mm,
they have no idea what their mission is, what their purpose is. So then there's an area that needs to be explored, right? Because I really wish for everyone to be completely aligned with their purpose, and to really embody it, and to bring it out into the world.
yeah. Yeah. That's
that,
really
that that's my deeper purpose. Yeah, and the way to get there is healing and clearing that self-sabotage.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Ah, I'm feeling like I need to have you on a maintenance plan. you know, not a one and done, but I keep coming back, keep clearing out. Yeah,
To be
yeah.
honest, I've got myself on that maintenance plan as well, because we're never done. We're never finished, because every single one of us we all have our issues. We all have, our wounding, and that's hidden in our subconscious, that is driving us without us knowing it. So if we don't look at it, if we don't heal it, then we keep running into the same old patterns.
Yeah, yeah, that came up. I came up against that just in the last couple of weeks or so. Okay, so there was something that I noticed in your background about karmic imprints. Just curious
Mhm.
what that's all about.
Yeah, so karmic imprints, it's a bit of a woo-woo term maybe, but in my own journey, I noticed that even after having done tons of inner work, self-development work, I had come a long way, But I also noticed that certain struggles and patterns would still, keep coming back. And I felt this urge to dig deeper because, for myself and for others, for my clients especially, and I didn't want to just cut off the weeds, as we usually do, but I really wanted to go in and pull out the weeds by the roots, because only then can we truly live the life that we desire, right? Full of joy, full of ease, fulfillment, abundance, or whatever you wish for yourself. Because otherwise, we keep on living with the handbrake on. That's what I call it, because that's what our self sabotage and our inner subconscious blocks do. They put the handbrake brake on, and that shows up in our business, in our job, in our relationship, in our relationships plural, in our health, in our finances, everywhere.
Mm,
It shows up everywhere.
mm. And there's,
And that brings us to the imprints, because that was your question. So we all have limiting beliefs and patterns that hold us back from living our highest potential, right? So these are buried deeply into our subconscious, and the larger part of the world population doesn't even know it's there. They're not aware of them. But these subconscious blocks still drive us. They drive us for about 95% of whatever we say, whatever we do. And that's pretty shocking if you think about it. And these subconscious blocks, they stem from our core emotional wounding and our imprints that were embedded in us in our younger years. And we also have, or I should say, we also carry residue from our ancestors. And, all the hardships they went through, the struggles, the surviving, the death, the famine, you name it. We carry that residue in our body, in our system, and this goes many, many generations back. We couldn't even fathom how far back. And then there's also our karmic imprints. That's really the karmic part, actually. It's that our soul may have had other experiences that we also carry in our body. And maybe it's not part of your belief system. That's of course fine, but when I work with people, I I I cover it anyway, just in case. And that's what I do, because my work is not religious in any way. So everybody's welcome. It's all inclusive, but I do cover it.
mhm.
And even though I don't usually name it specifically, but to get back to imprints, all these imprints are in our nervous system, they're in our cells, they're in our DNA. And the thing is, they don't just go away by themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Th- that that was a lot of information to take in.
Mm,
But a couple of things that you said that my ears really perked up to was about how it's in our system, it's in our DNA, especially when you're talking about ancestral experiences, that
mhm.
that gets coded in our DNA. That's how species evolve, right?
Yes.
They learn from what went on from before, and so yeah, that would be
Mm.
coded in our DNA. That makes perfectly good sense. And then, because we're talking about the energy body, yeah, I'm learning more and more about the energy matrix that is all around us. Maybe some people are very sensitive to it. They can really feel it, touch it. Most of us just floats through. We feel like an individual, not connected to anything else, and yet we are connected in this webbing to every other thing on the planet. And
Yes.
so, therefore, if there is something from a past, then we might not be aware of it, but we're connected to it as well. So, those are a couple of things that came in
Yes.
about that. So, thank you for that description about the karmic imprints. That's really really deep. But we've been using this term inner critic a lot, and I realize we haven't really even defined that. So maybe you've got a really brief description of what's an inner critic.
Yeah, so it's very, inner critic is very much related to what I was just speaking about, because the inner critic is really a wounded part inside of us. And I'll try to keep it a bit simple because there's so much to say about this, this very interesting topic. Um, let me give you an example. So maybe as a little girl, let's say age 4 or something, was left alone for 10 minutes because mom had to run an errand. And that little girl thought that mom had left for good, for always, and that she was abandoned. And even though that's not the truth, that can be the experience of that little girl, right? The That's the feeling that she had. Or the 6-year-old who asked a question in class and was ridiculed by 25 of her classmates. Can you imagine those experiences? And we've all had them one way or another, or even worse experiences than that. They may have been so life threatening at that age for that, at that younger, for that younger version of ourselves, that, they, this very, let's say, frightened, hurt, or sad little girl decided that she never wanted to feel that again because it was too much to handle for that age. And so that's where the survival mechanism is created subconsciously, of course, right? So as an adult, when we rationally, for example, decide to step out of our comfort zone, or step up for ourselves, step into our power, take on a new venture or whatever, this wounded part that's still deeply hidden inside of us says, no, 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 don't do that. It's too dangerous, or you'll get hurt. Stay where you are. So that's the inner critic that we hear, that inner voice, but really who is speaking is that little girl, that little child that had these really threatening experiences, right?
Mhm.
And that survival mechanism is still in place. But where it served us before, when we were too young and too small to fend for ourselves, it now inhibits us and it limits us.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
I hope
All
that
right.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
does. I can see why it's so. You used the word relentless before. Excuse me, relentless, because if it's really deep in there, then
Yeah,
and
and we also want to look at how it served us, right? Because it is truly not a perfectionism, a protection mechanism that really saved us when we were too young to handle our emotions. And
hmm
now that we're adults, we carry it with us still. It's still in our system, but it doesn't serve us. Instead of that, it really limits us. It acts like a handbrake.
yeah, yeah, that's a really good analogy there. So
Yeah.
what gets lost from a personal standpoint? What gets lost when someone succumbs to that inner critic or critic,
Mm,
multiple ones?
a lot, because it can be huge, right? So, um, let's start by asking this question: how many dreams have you had, that you did not pursue?
Mm,
Because your gremlins held you back. The fear of the unknown, the fear of criticism or judgment from others. How many of you feel that there's so much more inside of you that just isn't coming out, that just isn't coming to fruition?
mm,
Health issues. You're the health expert here, the health and wellness expert here. Health issues are a very common way for us to sabotage ourselves. And it sounds maybe kind of weird, but think of it, as long as we're sick, exhausted, or have some kind of injury, we don't have to show up.
mm,
We don't have to step up. And I do want to say very clearly, this is not your fault if this happened to you. This is not your fault. I feel it's really important to say this and be clear about this, because it's never, almost never, a conscious choice to become sick or ill or injured. But in a very, very sneaky way, it's the subconscious wounding, our wounded parts, that are trying to protect us from the unknown, or from the criticism, or from failing, or whatever the fear is, right?
hmm Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But
that's
it can be
fantastic.
very, very sneaky.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Procrastination. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to mention procrastination.
oh yeah,
It's it's self-sabotage personified.
yeah.
Yeah.
I come from a family of procrastinators. I'm a
Yeah.
recovering procrastinator.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
much so. Yeah. Yeah. You you mentioned health issues, but I think if I understand it correctly, it was more like your health issues can be part of what's sabotaging you. But I'm wondering what happens on the other side. So if you are um, listening to your inner critic, if you are succumbing to the karmic imprints, what's the impact then?
Right.
What's the effect on, say, your health, on your physical health?
Yeah. So if yeah, on health, it's like if you um, let's say if you listen to your inner critic and follow your inner critic's advice, let's call it that way, you know, it'll what'll happen is you'll probably say yes to a lot of things that on the inside you actually feel a no to. You know, how many times did you cross your boundaries because your inner critic told you that this would be rude, this would be selfish, you know, this way you would be a bad employee, a bad friend, a bad mother, and so on. So
Hmm.
our inner critic, makes us or has us making choices that aren't necessarily in our best interest, right? And of course, this causes stress. This causes anxiety. This causes exhaustion, burnout. You know, I've named a few before, but these are some very common things that I've seen. And from my own experience, it has also really affected my hormones.
Hmm.
You know, when I started menopause and I worked a lot of hours trying to get things done. And I felt that, you know, at that point, I felt, okay, I'm not 25 anymore. I mean, I'm not 80 either, but I wasn't, you know, I'm not 25 anymore. And I have to slow down. But my inner critic, you know, is behind me with that whip all the time. But my body can't keep up anymore.
Mm.
So this is asking for so much self-care, and I really had to step up. Now, how do you say that? To up my self-care? Is that the right way to say it?
Well, I
Uh,
think the popular term now is up level.
Level, yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I'm not a native English speaker, so thank you. Yeah, I really had to up level my self-care because what I already did, which I thought was a lot, wasn't enough, and I had to slow down and look at my inner critic, my gremlins.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you for connecting the dots so brilliantly. And by the way, everybody, I forgot to tell you that Gertrude is in Holland.
Yes,
Yeah, and she actually has a Texas connection, which
I do.
we
I do. I used to live there. Yes, in my younger years, I did.
yeah. I love the fact that you had more of a Texas, I'm going to say cowgirl experience than I have ever had, and I've lived here for years and years and years. So I love it. But anyway, going back to connecting the dots to health, I hope you were listening to very closely. I was taking notes to what she said. She talked about stress. She talked about anxiety. She talked about burnout. She talked about the impact on your hormones, especially if you're constantly under relentless stress, then your body's going to release those stress hormones of cortisol and adrenaline, and it's going to drive your system haywire. And then, thanks again for connecting it back to what even got you into this in the first place: your stress, your burnout, your fatigue, and all of that can result in improper eating habits, craving sugars all the time to give yourself energy to get your body moving because it's so fatigued. Or maybe it's emotional eating because you're stuffing your emotions. And so this is why this work is so important that she is doing, and the work of Vibrantly Living You, to help you get those things back on track. So thank you so much for so brilliantly tying all of that together, Gertrude. Yeah. And then again, this is all about that a sense of identity, boundaries, boundaries, who you are, who you believe yourself to be, and who you deserve to be. There is
Yeah.
so much here. So now that we've fully understand, or better understand, the critics and karmic imprints and the impact on the body, how is it, Gertrude, that you help people overcome their these inner critics?
Yeah, so I just talked about it a little bit already. I really believe in pulling out the weeds. And as I said before, we need to go much deeper than to just talk about it. Awareness is great. Awareness is already the first shift happening, but we need to do the work on a deeper energetic level, because that's where the stuck energy is. That's where the stuck energy needs to be uncreated and healed. So again, we cannot undo what happened, but we can heal the imprints of it.
Mhm.
So without needing to relive any painful experiences, but I use a modality that's very simple, very easy, very gentle. You've experienced it yourself. And yeah, it's very, I really love it because it's so simple, it's so straightforward, but yet so powerful. So you're really invited to have the experience of it. Yvonne will give you the details later, but yeah, so it's really it has shifted a lot for me. It has really saved my life, and it has changed my life. Yeah.
Mhm. And then what sort of transformations have you seen with your clients?
I've seen so many beautiful miracles, Yvonne. It's amazing, and not to pat myself on the back, but I see women finally stepping into their power and finally fulfilling their dream. Starting their own business. Serving others. I have clients, after years of being in dead end jobs, too afraid to step out of them, to finally have a career that makes them happy. I see people resolve their health issues. I have people increasing their income, attracting unexpected money, having more harmonious relationships, find inner peace, which is so hard to find these days, right? With the lives that we live, and the state of the world that it's in. And I can go on and on, but it's a modality that can really, that works for any issue, because it's so comprehensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. That's is that what keeps you going, delivering those kinds of results?
Yeah, it's these results that I see happening with my clients, and also, of course, from my own experience. And it never ceases to amaze me that these, simple, uh, easy tools that I use are so powerful, as I said. And it's my passion to help women awaken to their highest potential, to fulfill their soul's purpose, so they can make that difference and impact that they're here for.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a reason for me to roll out of bed every morning for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see how that can be very, very rewarding for you as well as for the
Mhm.
people that you are working with. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, to add to that, I think it's if if we experience it ourselves, if we've gone through that journey, then we know that we can be healed, that we our lives can change, that we can change. And knowing that, being really how do you say that? Know that this can, having faith that that is possible for all of us. That's the beauty of it, and that's what drives me, that to help other women with.
Wonderful. That's just wonderful. I'm so glad we had you here. So I noticed I developed this pattern of asking each one of my guests something about the pandemic. Since, since we've all been living through it. And so let's
Yeah.
talk about the pandemic. What impact has the pandemic had on the people that you serve?
You know, Yvonne, it has impacted all of us, right? In our own in our own unique way. You know, there's so much fear about our health, our jobs, our businesses, our income, our safety. You know, maybe worry about loved ones, and I also feel that it has woken people up. I see a lot of people waking up and realizing that it's time for change. You know, to finally take those dreams seriously,
Mhm.
you know, whereas before they may have, you know, put them aside, you know, I don't have time, I don't have energy, you know, blah blah, grambling. And to finally take themselves seriously because of everything that's happening. And I really see them step out of the mediocre lives that they feel they may have, or have been living, and follow their bliss. And I think that's also a really beautiful development in all the, you know, the negativity that's going on, and all the suffering.
Yeah. Okay. That is an incredible silver lining. You know,
Yes.
yeah, an
Yeah.
incredible silver lining, that sense of urgency and that sense of now is the time to pay attention. So
Yeah.
thanks for putting that positive spin. Not that, well, whatever, for allowing us to maybe shift how we think about this year that we've all lived through with the pandemic. That's great. So this has just been absolutely fascinating, Gertrude, and I'm eager to get reconnected with you. You have really hit some themes that remind me that this is something that we can all benefit from, and that we're constantly changing and evolving, and then that just brings up new things. So I'm really looking forward to getting reconnected with you and maybe doing another energy healing. But what if everybody else wanted to get connected with you? Do you have a way for that to happen?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so if you feel that it's time for you to start healing your, you know, your limiting beliefs, your blocks, your patterns, and you'd like to know more, you can start by going to my website and download my free gift. The free gift is called "The Number One Reason Fail Women Fail to Live Their Highest Potential." It also includes a self-sabotage assessment, so you can see where you are and what areas you're sabotaging yourself in, and maybe keeping the handbrake on. So yeah, you can go to my website. It's soulfulbusinesswoman.com, and it's right there on the homepage. You'll see it. It's right there. So soulful women. Sorry, I keep tripping over my own URL. This is pretty bad. It's soulfulbusinesswoman.com.
And don't worry, we will make sure that we have a link to that in the comments thread so that people can find you and download that free gift. Yes.
Yeah. And I
Um,
also have a regular energy clearing call. So if you feel it in your heart to experience it, you can also find that on my website as well.
all right, everybody. The time always goes by so quickly, especially when I have such fascinating people. Maybe I should do it this way because it's always opposite on things. Fascinating people like Gertrude here. And I look forward to reconnecting with you.